Welcome everyone to Life of Giants, where we're gonna ask you what the plan is, and then we're gonna poke holes in it. So in the great voice of Mike Tyson, it's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's what we're talking about today. So
Had to do
uh
the voice, huh?
I had to do the voice. What's up, Serge? How are you, Cole?
Uh, Long day, bro. Long day.
I find that with less sun, more day. It's been frustrating. I feel like that it shouldn't work that way. There should be more nighttime, more relaxation, but no. The
Our
answer, yeah.
incoming president, not that this has anything to do with you,
Mm,
but our incoming president wants to get rid of the time change, and so that I believe to extend days during the wintertime. And so it's just gonna just be the same year round. And I'm kind of fucking down for it. I don't understand. We're not an agricultural country anymore. You know what I mean? This isn't, we're not a fucking third world
yes.
nation. We don't
So,
need daylight savings.
in theory, sure. The problem is that once you start doing one of those things, then you find out that, like, oh, well, we're not going to do the time shift. Okay. Remember, it used to not be this bad. But we're living in some sort of crazy. This is the worst version of the future that we could have chosen. Um, and like the Matrix sucks now. Let's be honest. It's yeah. No, well, listen, this is the problem too, right? Like we I was planning on coming down there. That's not happening. That's not happening until the new year. That's
Indeed.
you we were
Let's
hoping you
talk
were going to
about
get a
that for a
passport.
second. You know, the
Yeah.
last time we saw each other face to face was in March. That's almost a year ago.
It's almost a year ago.
It feels like it was the other day. Like,
I mean,
is that what old is? Is like a year goes by and you're
yeah.
like, oh, I guess that was a whole year ago. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and
like
it feels like
oh,
weeks ago, months ago.
a friend of mine came to the viewing for my father-in-law. I saw him. He's like, "Hey, man, you're looking good." I'm like, "Man, I haven't seen you." He's like, "It's been 5 years since we've seen each other." I'm like,
Jesus.
"Jesus, this is a guy I went to high school with. Like, we used to be tight. Me, him, and another guy. The other guy didn't even show." And I'm like, "All right, whatever, bro. That's
Well, that's a whole nother thing because like I feel like the fucking pandemic kind of like fucked that up a little bit, don't you think? Because like it feels because that was the before COVID was 5 years ago, 2019,
yeah,
back when society made sense. Still kind of. It felt like it tried to make sense at least, and
yeah,
yeah, it looks like that we're closing in on 6 years. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Since 2019, and like everything has just been accelerated since then.
yeah." Well, okay. So Robert Sterling says, "Does your boyfriend wear the pants in this relationship?" Because I guess Robert thinks he's funny. Bald head, don't get your boyfriend mad. Number one, I'm clearly the top in this relationship. Let's start there. And number two, neither one is that gay. So that's weird. Cheyenne, how are you? Could you give me a shout out, please? Yeah, Bannon Cheyenne. Sure.
The
That is a unique name. What's happening? I would give a shout out for yesterday to Miss Tess Tickle. Great name. Fantastic. Fantastic.
uh,
No, but this is the thing too, is like when the pandemic happened and we were forced to not hang out with people, I loved it. It was great. Because the
yeah,
people are
it didn't really change my life that much, other than like days went by faster, and there was like a bit of an impending doom in the back
yeah.
of your mind. Like is the world ending?
I
And
mean,
the crazy part about that is that hasn't gone away. The impending doom of world
yeah.
societal collapse has not gone
So
away since then.
yeah, yeah. I feel like it's sticking around like my lack of hairline. It's there now. We're not gonna have it. What
Well,
kind
like,
of watch is that? I'm not wearing a watch. Are you wearing a watch?
yeah, something you can't afford, buddy.
Suck it, big old nuts. Great name. Fantastic. Um, no, but
But
like I said, it pulled the band. Like, look, not being able to see anybody really pulled the band-aid off for some relationship where you're like, I didn't never like that person. I don't want to hang out with them. Um, And
Well,
then
I think it accelerated my relationship with my the mother of my child because
yes,
we weren't like made for each other by any stretch of the imagination,
yeah,
and then we had to see each other a lot, you know, like all day long,
yeah,
and like we just weren't about that life, and we broke up
yeah,
in after a year of just being
yeah.
stuck in a house
Well,
together. So
it was the same thing with a lot of people who were like, I need to go back to the office. And you're like, why? He's like, I can't be in the house with my family anymore. You're like, yeah, that's your family, man. That is a you problem. I remember other people who are like, I hate my house and I hate my kids. And you're like, yep, those are all your fault. That's not, and it's wild that people have not realized that you're like, yeah, you're kind of in charge of your own. Like, if you don't like your life, that's on you. You can do things. LOL. Oh no, he's insecure. He has a show on the internet. I don't think that's insecure. I think that is more secure. It's okay. White,
white
white,
buddy,
white
I
buddy.
don't know. Somebody big mad right now.
Listen, somebody who brags about the size of his testicles clearly has nothing else to brag about. So I'd calm down there, big ol' nuts.
Right.
Uh, I just realized today your beards match your t-shirts. Thanks,
My
Victoria.
shit, why is everybody saying my beard is red? It's not
It,
that red.
but it looks red on camera.
Does it? I don't see
Yeah.
it.
That's because you need glasses and you have American healthcare. So you're not getting, yeah.
I just
Without,
have an orange tinted studio light. That's all.
sure, let's call it that. And mine is just gray by nature. So that's fine. Yeah, listen, well, this is the thing too, right? Like, and I love this quote that you found for us today because let's be honest, we were all sad with the poor showing of the Tyson Paul fight. We all hoped that Jake Paul was just going to burst into flames as soon as Tyson touched him. It would have been awesome.
He kind
Um,
of did there for a second. He took one good whop to the face and kind of like
his
you could see
whole face, he was
his
like,
whole body
"What?
language was like, "Oh
What have I
no, I've
done?"
made a mistake."
Yeah.
But I mean, he hung around for sure.
Yeah. Well, and Mike Tyson had to shove his own hand in his own mouth to stop himself from beating the child, which you're like, hey, you know what? Self control. Good for him. But in that quote, he says, no one's plan. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I'll tell you, having been in fights, your demeanor immediately changes when you are punched in the face. That is, that layer of we're in civilized society just that disappears. And it's one of those things where you can be, figuratively punched in the face or absolutely physically punched in the face, and both of those things will set you for a loop. Gentlemen, what the hell's going on here? We are talking about planning because,
Triumphant. How you doing, man?
yeah, that's a great name.
Well,
But
I
yeah,
mean, that kind of ties into the whole COVID thing. I think
yeah,
we all had like in 2019, I think we all kind of felt like we know where life was going. Thank you, Victoria.
thanks.
Um, we all felt like we knew where life was going, and
Thanks, hot stuff. There you go.
then life hit us in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody in the mouth. You know.
Always fart, never shart. Let's be honest. Yeah, no, but that's the thing is, and realistically, the government was of the opinion that they would get complete domination over everyone, and everyone would have 19 vaccines at this point. Also, not true. So it goes both ways, right? And like there's an argument to be made that when you plan, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, right? But at the same time, when you plan, and this is something that I have trouble with, is I will try and be prepared for every possible outcome. What's up, Freak Bob Serbia?
Freak Bob.
But
Triumphum says he's Elrad. What's up, Elrad? Why you change your name?
good dude. See, it's Elrad. I mean, I would go by Triumphium. Way better. I feel like people will just assume that you're educated. Not that that's a word, but it sounds smart enough. But yeah, right? Like like, here's an example. Right now, we're barreling down to the end of the year. Yep, the element of wind. That's fine. And realistically, I know I find this a lot of times is I'll have thoughts and goals every year. I think that's a positive thing. And actually, the Rothschilds, their thing is New Year's Day. They sit down and say, okay, what went wrong, and how we're going to make sure it never happens again. And that's how they, instead of, because it's ridiculous when people are like, oh, I'm going to have a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Never works, right? Because the I love this expression, is the idea is that those resolutions and commitments you make are predicated on the idea that tomorrow you will wake up with more discipline and willpower than you've ever had in your entire life, which is just not true. That's not how that works, right? In Germany, soldiers are still in prison today because they did not get vaccinated. The reason given was refusal to obey orders. Has anything like that happened in your country? No, but a lot of people got fired and now they're suing the company, and that is people are making some good coin. So
Now, see, we won World War II, so like we don't have to deal with stuff quite like that, but it's starting to get like that.
also too, like,
That's
let's
why we had
point
an
out
election.
the idea that Germany is punishing their soldiers because they wouldn't just follow orders
Yeah, how
feels
they
like
gonna
that
make that
already bit
mistake
them.
before?
That was already a problem.
You guys,
And like,
you guys are like perpetually the villain in every like action movie and World War, and
yeah,
it's like y'all gotta quit making the same. It's like the
same
definition of
thing.
insanity is
Yeah,
go ahead, finish the
yeah,
statement.
it's just the same thing, and expecting a different result. And like, let's be honest, we are facing down the barrel of a possible World War III because half of the planet is in some sort of conflict right now. So
Right, 'cause even Canada, you guys, Justin Trudeau, who I feel like has been president of Canada my entire life,
yeah.
is now talking about resigning because of what? Something's got him scared. He just talked to Trump the other day. Now all of a sudden he doesn't want to be in charge no more.
Oh,
Like,
bro. Yeah, because Trump was like, "Hey, little boy, I'm going to take over your country and you're going to take it. You're going to take it, and that's it." Samurai Jack says, "Putin sends hi." And I say hi back. I don't know if I could be in the same room as that guy. Just like that might be where I lose my record of not having shit my pants since I was a kid.
I'm not
Because
afraid of him. He
he's
doesn't
scary.
scare me. He kind of comes off as like a goofy guy. And then the more I pay attention, like he's like definitely a badass. Don't get me wrong, but like
Mhm.
he kind of just doesn't take anything serious. And I feel like I would get along with him in such a weird way.
So yes, until you didn't, and then you're in jail for the rest of your life. So
Nah.
also, absolutely, the EU was actually a project too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I sat on my ass for a long time for many reasons. One piece of advice I have for anyone with a loss of motivation is do something, anything. That's a good point. So you don't have to do what you're supposed to do, but do something, and a lot of things will just take care of themselves. Like you kind of just have to get that mode. And I find the same thing. Like when I'm like today, I haven't eaten since yesterday afternoon. But it got to the point later on, and I'm like, I'm just not going to eat. Well, I'll figure it out, right? And for me, then I still had to do stuff. The only thing is, I'm freezing cold. But yeah, any small chore or job that exponentially makes progress in whatever you absolutely. It's not, and that's the whole thing is people focus on perfection when you're like, no, it's progress, not perfection. Because the best thing about life is that you can just try again tomorrow, right? And it doesn't matter. Like you just keep on trying. That's that's the whole thing is you get an opportunity to experiment every day with your goals and what you want to achieve and all those things, which is valid. But like nothing is perfect, and
Right.
it's about what shows your character is your willingness to try, right? If you're not even willing to try, that's what happens. And I've said this before, is that idea of your character is not based on what you do when everything is fine and perfect and happy and dandy. Your character is tested when you face that punch in the face, right? You
Right. And I
can't.
think that kind of fits in with what we were talking about on Thursday, which is like you have responsibilities, you need to get them done. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Which is where a lot of men's depression comes in. Is if you don't make an effort to achieve something, you're gonna feel depressed. That's
Yes.
just we're not we're this is deeply rooted into our caveman DNA. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
Where I think specifically we're talking about um, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Mm.
Well, I think the idea there is a lot of people get uh, discouraged
Yeah.
when
Mhm.
something happens that they weren't like they didn't see coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know when you hit a snag or shit hits the fan, and now all of a sudden you like lose your motivation. I understand wanting to like take a step back and try to analyze everything and
Yes.
make a new
Very much.
plan,
Mhm.
but you can't just give up because everything went to shit, you know, or something went to shit.
I have a question for you.
Well,
Number one, Triumvium. Yes, that's right. You won't know if you don't try it. 100%. And the fact is, you don't have to explain yourself. You can just do it. You're an adult. It's even as a youth, you just try things. But here's my question to you, Cole, is if you have pre-planned in case of XYZ happens, how do you feel, because I have an opinion on this, but how do you feel when you're like, well, the worst case scenario would be this, but I highly doubt, like that's a ridiculous thing. There's no way it happened, and then it does, and then you're like, am I smart or am I just doomed to fail? Like, how do you respond when things like that happen?
I already try to figure out what the best case scenario and the worst case scenario and everything in between. I'm a deep rooted
Yeah,
analyzer. Some would call me an overthinker.
yeah,
Whatever you want to call it. I try to figure out what I always try to weigh risk when I get involved in anything.
yeah,
So I know what I'm dealing with.
mm,
That way, when worst does come to worst, I'm already
yeah,
ready for it. You know what I mean? And when that does happen, we just we just cross that bridge. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. We knew that this was a possibility, so
yeah.
that there's no reason to like forget. Last weekend,
Mm.
um, my battery died in my car. You know
Oh,
what I mean? And
perfect
like
weather for that.
right. It like although I was not planning for that to happen,
Yeah,
you always know that that's a possibility. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's not even the worst case scenario that could happen to my car. But I was prepared for the most part because I knew it was a possibility.
yeah. Well,
You
and
know?
and this is the see, my frustration with this is that when I see, I have a bad habit where anytime something happens, my brain immediately goes to worst possible scenario. And then I use logic to come back to what actually makes sense, such as someone's late from arriving, they are wearing a car accident, they're probably dead. That's my immediate, right?
I
And then
used
I
to
go,
do that too. I don't do that as much anymore.
but then I go, or maybe they're just in traffic.
Right.
That's possible, right? And then I go, you know what? Until I hear otherwise, I have to accept that the rational thing to think is they're in traffic, or maybe they had to make a stop. Maybe somebody peed their pants and they have to manage that situation. And that has become a priority, which is completely understandable and reasonable. And I just have to be patient and allow things to come to fruition. The uh
Well, the death rate in car accidents aren't as high as they used to be either. So it's like kind of almost
True.
like an unlikely
Mhm.
event. You know what I mean? For somebody to die unless they have health issues.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing. I'll be honest. It's funny that you bring up the battery because uh, we had a few really, really, really cold days. Like there was -14 at one point up here, and I went to turn on the car, and it just went click. I went,
Yeah, that's what my car did.
and then I was like, hold on, try it again, and then it turned on, and I was just like,
Mine did not.
oh, and then uh, the day after, when it wasn't as cold but still cold, I turned the car on, and my display that has like, it used to have a GPS, now it doesn't work, and it has the radio and all that kind of stuff, was just like barely on. And I was just like, it's fine. The car just needs to heat up and then it will brighten. It's just totally fine. Just calm down. And then sure enough, after 5 minutes, it lit up and everything was fine. But it's the frustrating part is when you actively think of the worst case scenario and then the worst case scenario happens, you just stand there going, I wish I didn't think this way, because like at some point you wonder, you're like, did me thinking about it cause it to happen, or am I just a victim of circumstance?
I don't think it's. I don't really like. I think the worst case scenario because I want to know what I need to deal with.
Yes. Or
If
how
I'm
to
right,
prepare for it.
then if I'm right, then I already know how to how to go about dealing with that situation. That's what I like about figuring out. I don't even just think the worst case scenario. I think all scenarios. I try to figure out every scenario as
Yeah.
much as possible. Um, Almost like I'm rolling dice or something in life.
Yeah.
But like
Which
when
is
the battery
accurate.
died on me, I was immediately like, "Oh, it's gonna be the alternator." Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I have like a wall charger, so I had to physically take my battery out of my car and bring it up into my apartment and
Awesome.
plug it up to the wall charger that
Yeah.
plugs into my wall.
Yeah.
Which takes about 9 hours to charge it. But
Yeah.
for the 9 hours, I'm like, I really hope it's just the battery and not the fucking alternator. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, it was the battery. But I would have already figured out what it was going to cost me had it been the alternator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and that's there. That's the thing, is having that money set aside for that specifically is also a comfort, right? Make
right,
sure it says, so you guys are similar in our approach, which I think is more because we are clearly very different people, but different everything. Uh, but I think it's more of a maturity thing as men that you start to just take into consideration possibilities. Triumphium says, instead of beating yourself up, sometimes it's okay to say, well, there's nothing I can do about it now, especially if you don't have any role in it. Well, and that's the other thing, is that I find that there are things will happen regardless of our intent, opinion, preparedness, whatever is happening in our life. And we can, we'll stand there and just go, it's happened. What do all I can do, and this is one of those things where we're trying to get better at, is where it's like, I'm only in control of how I react to the
right,
situation, as opposed to am I in control of the situation, right? I can only respond in whatever way I deem necessary, and then that is something that's attributed to my character, right? So like I knew people who would just flip out like the smallest thing, and you're like, what's wrong with you? Just fucking figure your shit out, right?
I
Like,
used to do that when I was younger,
yeah,
like in my 20s. But
sure.
there's what does that do? What is
Hmm.
that? I mean, no, I will say, like, I don't. When the battery thing, I was just like, I'm gonna go put the battery on the charger. That's it,
Yeah,
and that is what it is. I'm not gonna freak out about it. If it's not that, then let's move on to the next step and figure out what the problem is. Diagnostics. But
yeah,
I'm not immune to freaking out on people. Like today, I was at Cracker
no.
Barrel picking up an order,
Mhm.
and there was like this old lady who was like pissed off at the cash register. She was working the cash register, and she was pissed off that the cash register wasn't working. And I was like, I'm just here to
I
pick up that
understand.
order right there behind you. I've been sitting here for 15 minutes waiting for you to do whatever you're doing. Can you just hand me? And she's like, hold on, I need the blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, fuck you, bitch. Like I've been sitting here for a while. Like
Yeah.
I can't help that your life has gone so fucked up that you work at a Cracker Barrel well beyond your retirement age, and you
Mhm.
can't figure out the easiest job in the fucking world, which is a cash register. That's the easiest job the world has to offer, and you can't figure that out. Hand me the fucking food so I can move on about my day, and
Yeah.
you can think of not worry about me. You can eliminate me as a fucking problem. One less issue involved in this whole scenario. Hand me the fucking food. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so I lost my shit a little bit, but she was being a dick first. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
so and that's somebody who is found lacking, right? So Victoria says Cracker Barrel is the best. That's
Oh,
100%
I
true.
love Cracker Barrel. She was just being
That's
that
savage.
particular person was just
No,
being a bitch. You
but
know what I
but
mean?
that's something though that a lot of old people will just go, "Oh, I'm old. I didn't realize." And you're like, "No. So I remember Victoria and I were in line at a place, I think to cash out or whatever, and this old couple kept on like cutting in and out of the line, trying, and I just turned to Victoria. I'm like, "Wow, can you imagine being that old and still not having patience in your life? Like, what a horrible way to survive." And both of them were like, and then just walk to the back of the line. And I'm like, there you go. That's so very simple because like to my credit, I use the fact that I am 15 feet tall and 1,000 pounds to my advantage, right? People are just like, I'm not gonna mess with that guy. I'm just
I
gonna walk
don't
away.
like old people. I really don't. Like
No.
it really gets on my nerves. Oh, this is an old work shirt. This is I used to work at a bagel shop. This is bring home the bacon. So
Interesting. Question: is Cleveland's Cracker Barrel just as racist as the Buffalo one? That's a good question.
I
I
mean
believe
there's a
Cracker
good
Barrel
mix
in
of all
general is supposed to
people.
be.
I don't know.
I
I'm
like it,
not
but
really
I'm a white
the right person to notice or to ask that because like racist shit gets by me. If
guy.
I'm honest, because I'm white, I'm a white man. That shit does not affect my daily life.
Texas living, baby. That's just
Like
that's
it
fine.
has to be pretty overt for me to notice.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just lucky, but I will never do a job I don't want to do. Never have to. If I had to work to overpay with rent and groceries and junk, something is not right. Yeah. So, well, okay. There's two
I
sides
mean,
to
that
that.
sounds like you're pretty
Right?
young, or you don't
Yeah.
have a lot of responsibilities yet.
So
Like,
I'd live in my truck before pulling a Cracker Barrel lady. I
see,
mean,
I have a son. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I don't have that like
You don't have the freedom.
freedom.
Yeah.
There's gonna be times where I'm gonna have to do shit I don't want to do. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? For the sacrifice,
Yeah.
it's a sacrifice I make for my son. I'm proud to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
So
you know,
well, and this is that whole idea where you're like there are certain things that you have a choice and other things you don't have a choice, right? So you have to provide a roof for your son to stay with you in. You
and
can't, right?
and if you ask the state, I also have to send money to help contribute to the roof on the other fucking
Yeah.
bitch's fucking house too. So
uh,
I have to
Vic-
provide my own house
yeah.
and help their
And
house.
another one. Yeah. Victoria says if I get free food at Cracker Barrel, I don't know if I would mind working there. I mean, so this is the thing though, is that there are there's a level of skills that you should develop throughout your life, right? And the fact is that some people will never be more than a retail job. That's fine. There's a
Right.
there is that point of thing, but even if you're in a retail environment, that doesn't mean that you should still be garbage, right? You should be the best you can be. And that's not to say, well, I'm the best retail employee. No. But you should actively make the effort to be the best you can be because and this is something that I see a lot like I watch a lot of food stuff and travel stuff where they'll go and they'll document like what happens at like a bakery in Japan and stuff. And you see the difference where like okay, the bakery in Italy everyone's covered in flour and schmutz and the guy's hair is wonky and he's like I'm just working on the bread and and then you see the Japan one where everyone's outfit is clean pressed and they take a certain pride in what they're doing and you're going so it doesn't matter what job you have but having pride in the job you do is a testimony to your character as a person, right? And the thing is, like something like that, where you're patient to a level where this lady is obviously getting frustrated and you're trying to not add to the frustration, but at the same time, you have your own job to do and she knows what's going on. It's not like she doesn't know that
Right.
there's an order waiting. There's not, you're going, hey, I know you're going through something right there, but I'm waiting for that and I've been
Right.
waiting
Let
some
me get
time.
out of your space,
It,
but you
yeah,
giving me my
yeah.
shit. You know
You
what I
you
mean?
have to still do your job and then you can go back to whatever is causing you problems, right?
Right.
So some
But
people
you
can
got
make
testing with me, and I'm not immune to that. I
oh yeah
will fucking if you give me an attitude, I'm just way better at giving attitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't
Oh, yeah.
don't think you can walk all over. I had fucking tattoos on my arm. Did you really think I was nice? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Well, and there's that too, right? And look, and what we try is some people can make crazy money at retail. And that's the thing is, if you're better at your job, you will see some benefits, right? And I'm like, listen, you're not going to become a millionaire, but you're still going to be very profitable. Yeah. Lucky, I realize a lot of people have big responsibilities and don't have a lot of things handed to them like I did. However, life is less fulfilling that way. Yeah. And that's a uh, 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 different type of suffering, but it is still right. Like I had two parents, crazy.
I don't know. The
Uh,
most fulfilling thing I ever did was become a father. Like truly, like
yeah,
I don't know where I'd be at in life had I not had a son, and I never planned to have kids. Um,
yeah.
I do want more. Of course, to
But
me, in my opinion, that window's starting to is like kind of getting towards the end, in my opinion, because I don't want to be like 40 and have a kid, because I don't want to be fucking like 60 and helping fucking my 20-year-old dipshit kids. You know what I mean? Like, so that window's starting to come to an end, to me, in my opinion.
it's the
But
advantage of having a wiener. My window is always open.
well, yeah, it's always open. But like I said, I don't want to be an old
Yeah,
man still like fucking being a
yeah.
parent. You know what I mean?
Well,
But
and that's like, look, now
I
I'm in
grew
way
up
better shape
from
than I was.
having a child, and this is another
Yeah,
one of those punch in the mouth situations. I never planned to have children. I didn't want children.
yeah.
And then I had one, and but I was very immature and very fucking lazy and very complacent. And then I had a son, and I was like, it's not about me anymore. It's not about me. Like it is a little bit,
But
because
it's
like here I am on the
yeah,
fucking internet
yeah,
talking shit, trying to make a career out of this. But like, and who does that? You know,
yeah.
what responsible parent does that? I do get looks. I do get looks a lot of time when I tell people
Sure.
what I like to do,
Yeah,
but like that's not for who cares? I provide a house and I pay my bills. So
yeah.
fuck you if you feel some type of way about it. But at the same time, I grew up a lot from having a son, having a child. You know,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What's up, Murder King? And also, yeah, but that's the thing, right? So now the commitment and responsibility doesn't seem so appealing because of the level of responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing is like people who are shitty parents are like, I wish I never had kids. That's because you're a shitty parent. But if you're a good parent, you find there is a certain level of validation, pride, and achievement in being a good parent. John Smith says, slave mentality, fight the power. So, well, this is the thing though, John, and something to consider is even in war, someone always has to shovel shit in the stables. There is always a shitty job that needs doing. So it's not slave mentality, right? We are in a situation where anyone who pays taxes is basically indentured to the government, right?
right?
And which is wrong. Don't get me like I'm not trying to defend it, but like we're in a situation where we are all indentured to the government en masse, and that so the limited amount of freedom that we have, we need to use it to make sure that our character still grows and is still beneficial, right? And that's that thing. So both Dino and I will give you the finger, Cole. There you go. Just so you
Give
know,
me the finger. What I do?
because we're in our 40s and we don't have kids, but we would like them. So
Have kids. Then I'm just saying I don't want to
yeah.
have kids in my 40s. I might, but I'm not. I just personally,
Hey,
I don't want to be old. Um, and
see,
dealing with like high school graduations and college tuitions and shit like that. You know what I mean?
so
Like,
just so you know, everyone, what we were doing today was we wanted to make sure to try and make more clips from our episodes. So I'm marking this part down specifically because in 20 years, when he's 50 and he has a newborn baby and he's just like, what the fuck am I going to do? I'm going to bring this clip to him. I'm like, hey, remember when you said this shit, you piece of garbage? And then rub it in his
you know
face.
why that's funny? Do you remember Josh Gurrieri?
Yeah.
He did the hot dog contest, and he did
Yeah.
one of our hamburger and cheese episodes. He's I think he just turned 50,
Yeah.
and he has like 2-year-old twin daughters.
Oh,
Yeah, and every
that's
day
smart.
he just every day I like when I every time I talk to him, he's just like another day, another
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's
And
got
that's
kids my age too. Is the funny part? Like not my
yeah,
age,
yeah,
my age, but like in
yeah,
their 20s. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I
So
remember,
it's like a whole different. Like,
and that's that idea where you're going like it. Like my dad had me when he was close to 40, and I had a very different relationship with my father because he was older, right? But my older siblings, like they were like, oh, we could take you when they were like 16 and 18, and he was like, okay. They were on vacation, went to the beach, went in the water, and he beat the crap out of both of them. And he's like, I guess you can't, bunch of bitches. Whereas when it came time for me, I remember once he tried to smack me, and I just palmed his entire chest, and I'm like, yeah, you're not going to touch me anymore. Like, that's not in the cards. And he was like, because
dude,
I was way
my
bigger than
kid
him.
thinks he can whip my ass now, and he's 9 on Wednesday. You know, and I'm like, dude, calm down. Like,
Yeah, well, there's that. I need to find a woman that will skip the marriage and all that shit and just want to reproduce for the sake of raising a child, all the good stuff that comes with it. Don't want to die alone. Yeah.
that's how they get you, bro.
Yeah.
Because they say they
Yeah.
don't.
That's what
I didn't marry my baby mama,
yeah, yeah. Listen, you gotta
but here
involve
she
the
is.
government. You gotta involve the government for your protection, friend.
Right. Shit, my baby mama
Yeah.
collects child support, and she got me addicted to salad so that she knows that that investment is going to pay off in the long run.
Got to spread the seed, bro, and not in the towel. Yeah, that's going to be a unicorn. Yeah, fair enough. And that's the thing is like, listen, there's a reward to being in a committed relationship. There is a reward to going through that portion, right? And it's not for everybody. Don't get me wrong. It's more so that, like, look, you never wanted kids, but now that you have one, you're like, man, I love being dad, right? And you take pride in it. Um, it's yeah, I'm sure she's out there. She probably has an OnlyFans. That's how that works, Rampion. That's the problem. Is that people make decisions now without any sort of planning, forethought, consideration, or any of those things, and then go, I can't believe that didn't work out. And you're going, well, you didn't take the time to think of anything. You only thought of your own selfishness, your own desires, and the result is shenanigans, right?
That let me
How
let
it
me
goes.
attribute this to like a football, American football. I guess like comparison. There's a lot of people who are given the ball and
Yeah,
think we're gonna score when they have no idea how to even approach getting the first down, getting the first 10 yards, the next 10 yards, the
yeah,
next 10 yards. And
mhm,
usually you got to go 80 yards to get a touchdown. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's what life is all. That's why football resonates with Americans so much because it's kind of a simulation of war and a simulation of life, which is you
yeah.
got to make small bits of progress over time. And eventually you gain successes over life, which in turn leads to a full on life of success.
So, and this is the thing too, right? And even when you do have a plan, because remember, we've actually sent the video to each other a few times of Ocho Cinco trying to get
Ray Lewis,
Ray
yeah,
Lewis,
who is like
and
a legit murderer, by the way.
who's yeah, a legit murderer. And he's like, I thought I had him, and he just gets taken out, bro. And he's like, Ocho Cinco does not know where he is, and he's like, I thought Ray didn't see me. I made a mistake. And then Ray's like, hey, you okay? And you thought I didn't see you, eh? And he's like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And you're like, yeah, that's, it's a lot of the times. And this is one of those things where I think Jordan Peterson was saying, it was like, a lot of times people are like, I don't know how I ended up here. And you're like, okay, well, let's just go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, at that point, you lied to yourself. You tried to spin the truth. And now this is the consequences. And you're like, because like, despite what everyone thinks that like, oh, people are out here just scamming everyone and making off scot free and not a worry in the world. What goes around comes around. It's just a matter of time. It's just that's as much as people like to think that that's not what happens. It does, and whether it's now, later, in the next life, in the previous one, who knows? But trust me, it is one of those things, right? Couldn't you say that about golf?
I
What
think,
about
yeah, you could.
yeah,
Golf is a good one, but
yeah,
I think the difference between golf and football is like golf is more a
for
like
ladies?
No, because golf is awesome, but
Oh,
golf
I
is
know.
more like individual, where
Yeah.
football you work as a team, and I think
Yeah.
anybody knows in life the best way to go about anything, um, is find people with like-minded goals
Yep.
and work towards them together. You know, that's what me and Dino.
Yeah.
That's why me and Dino, I think, vibe so well, is because we
Yeah.
have similar goals and similar outlooks on life and similar approaches. You
Yeah.
know, so yeah, you could say golf, but you can't. You literally can't do anything alone in life. You know what I mean? Like in life, maybe
Yeah.
sport, but not life.
I think golf is more meditative and self-fulfilling. Like it's something that you can do for your own, like it's your own challenge. Because in golf, the only person you're playing against is yourself, right? Like you may play with three other people, but your only competition is what you are trying to do versus
Right.
what you've done in the past, right? Whereas, like you said, is in football, you're part of a team and it's a whole other scenario, right? So it's that idea that comes along that people forget, where you're like, yeah, there are different circumstances, because look, both of those are important, right? It's the same idea about like practice, right? You don't just jump on the field and you're like, I'm going to be the best. You're like, no, that's not going to happen,
Right.
right?
You have to figure out who your teammates are too. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to name names, but like we had a whole big ass crew at the beginning of this year. And now like look
Yeah,
where we're at. You know what I mean?
right.
Like we
Yeah,
had to like
a lot.
mm, yeah, there was a few people on the chopping block because they didn't have similar goals to us, you know. So
And that's the thing, is like understanding that idea is how it plays out, right? When someone shows you their character, like the hardest thing is really recognizing or really seeing the truth that someone gives you, because they give it to you. They tell you exactly who they are, because people only lie for so long, and then eventually it comes out. And the problem is, sometimes you just have to see it, and then you're like, yeah, that's not for me. Thanks, bro. I appreciate you. It's been fun. Thanks for all the fish. And you just and like, as hard as that may be, sometimes you got to do it, right? And that's, I don't think that that's negative. I think um it's just part of life, right? Like, some you grow. Every relationship has, you know, it's dawn and dusk, right?
was it
Like,
that Iron Man once said, part of the journey is the end.
I mean, it's a journey. There's a start, a middle, an end, and then there's golf cart drive-bys, bro. Do not even tempt me. I
Golf cart drive by somebody. That's how you get drive by in your own drive by.
I also, though, like, I remember with my ex-wife, her grandparents had their 50th anniversary, and instead of having a party or anything like that, they were like, we're taking everyone to go to the Dominican for a week. And I'm like, sounds good to me. So we went, and essentially the grandma was like, she gave my ex-wife her credit card and was like, here, just make sure everyone's having a good time. I was like, okay. And then she kind of got frustrated because it was five resorts all attached to each other, so you could just go, but there was a train that would circle around and go through all the resorts, but you had to wait for the train. And she kind of got flustered and was like, I don't want to wait for the train. And I'm like, I can road to golf cart. And she's like, rent that golf cart for the rest of the week. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I took that thing into like horse trails and shit, and I got air. Like, it was great. But I was just taxi, and I'm like, I had a great time, because I was like, I like driving around, and we were just doing random shit. But I'm like, I love the idea of like being in a community where you can have a golf cart and just putz around on your own property or whatever. Like, yeah, I would listen. I would have golf cart drive-bys, just so you know, Serge, and I'd just be like, I would have a little paintball gun, make, pop, pop, pop. No,
Uh,
no question.
one of my mom's friends, that her dad owned like some lumber company,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, we were just over there. Me and all my siblings and her friends' kids. We were all
Right.
kind of hanging out,
Mhm.
and they had a bunch of golf carts.
Hmm.
Um, and we got our hands on one, and I was driving it around, and like my siblings were on the back talking shit, And so I like slammed on the brakes real quick, real hard, and they were like, "What the fuck was that for?" And then I gunned it again, and they fell off. And then they kept trying to chase me to get back on, and I would slow down and speed back up, slow down, speed back up, let them on. But when they're like halfway on, gun it again, so they fall back on.
I mean, that's the game,
I
right?
think like 3 or 4 hours later,
Yeah.
my mom's asking, like investigating, like asked me questions. So, did y'all get on one of the golf carts? I was like, no. They're like, oh, interesting, because like one of the wheels fell off, and I'm like,
That's crazy. I wonder how that happened.
I was like 14 at the time. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You're not hearing anything.
as soon as you asked me, did you get on one of the wheels, the golf cart? Come on, I'm not.
That is exactly how having siblings is.
Nope.
You beat them up and then you go, shh, don't tell mom. That's,
Dead ass.
basically it. Yeah. Victoria says one day we could buy acres of land, farm, and golf cart. Yeah, we'll all need the golf cart to
Does
farm the land.
Victoria not have any siblings?
No, she's an only child.
That's crazy. That's so sad.
Very.
My son didn't have any siblings either.
It is a very different experience, I'll tell you that. So because yeah, like, okay, so one of the things that someone pointed out to me the other day was that if you were Victoria's like, that's not sad. I mean, no, but it is an issue.
Sad.
So it's the whole idea was if you had siblings, when you leave somewhere, you tell people where you're going.
Look,
Whereas,
hey, I'll show you something. Hey, look.
Yeah.
That's what having siblings is like.
Yeah.
He threw it back.
Of course he did, right? That's the whole point, right? But like the whole idea is if you had siblings and you're going somewhere, you'll tell whoever's there. You're like, I'm gonna go do a thing. I'll be back in a while. When you don't have siblings, you just leave, and it is.
Dude, you know who does that and it drives me crazy is Grayson. Grayson will just leave and be gone for hours and then come back, and I'm like,
where were you?
Hello? And he's like, what? Yeah. And I'm like, you didn't say bye. You didn't say where you were going. He was like, I'm an adult. I'm like, that's beside the fucking point. Like,
yeah. And you're like, it's not, it's about respect,
right?
And communication, right? Victoria's like, okay, look at this. Victoria's like, you become very independent and creative. Case in point. Yeah. Yeah. You're married. You can't be independent. Just FYI. That's how that works. Once I left my cousin on a small island in the middle of the lake. He had to take a piss and insisted on going to shore. We dropped him off and went for lunch. Yeah. He had to piss. If his piss takes you are correct, and it's something very hard to fix. I know I'm correct. I've explained that to my wife a few times. I'm like, yeah, I take the time to consider if I'm correct before I open my mouth because I'm still a man, and if I'm incorrect, other men will shove it down my throat. Right?
Yeah, no, that's a young like a boy or a young man's like I don't even like that's a situation for a boy or a young man is just getting humbled. The minute you open your mouth around a bunch of other dudes, and they're like, "What the fuck did you just say?" Nah, that ain't good.
Like, no, you're not doing that. And then they're like, I shouldn't open my mouth if I don't know what I'm talking about. You're like, yeah, that's how that works.
I still do that though. I still open my mouth.
Oh, because it's fun as hell. Don't get me wrong. And listen, I'll tell you this much: I'm worse now that I'm old because I have an air of confidence that people are like, oh, he looks like an old man who's put together. He knows what he's talking about. No, I don't. Not a lot of the times. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I will continue talking because shenanigans.
Most people think I'm full of shit, though.
Oh,
no
yeah.
matter what I say.
Also true. I feel like once you get some gray in your beard, people are going to be like, oh, he looks like he knows what he's talking about. And you're going to be like, the fuck I do. And that's just,
the whole side of my fucking sideburn is like, got like, just like, it's just this looks like salted. Yeah.
It happens. Trust me. I told somebody that I found a gray chest hair the other day, and people were like, just one? And I was like, I'll stab you right in the face, you sons of bitches. Just
my old carpet installer boss.
Yeah.
He used to call, like, have to like yell my name to get my attention because I have a hearing problem. I don't know if you've caught on to that. I can like
it's called oldest sonitis.
That's right. I broke my nose when I was a kid, like a little kid, on a doorknob. so I don't smell good. And
Yeah.
then he put together, he's like, you can't hear, you can't smell,
Yeah.
you don't understand basic like math, and you don't know what tools are. Your vision's starting to go because you're getting older. Like, how have you made it this far in life? I'm like, I don't know. I just do what I do, I guess. Like, most people leave me alone, if I'm honest.
Most of the time, he's like this. What's going on? Yeah. Figures it out.
I generally try not to listen to people because they try to make me like climb on top of an alligator or something. You know what I mean?
And well,
Like,
the last time you listened to somebody, you ended up wrestling an alligator. So,
right.
yeah, Victoria says, just wear a button-down shirt and remove the hat, Cole. Done. People are going to think you know what you were saying. I mean, I feel like that's a couple steps that may help, but
I feel like the hat looks good on me.
I mean, like, listen, that's the thing is you're enjoying the idea of having hair still is a good thing. Enjoy it while you can. Yeah, I hope you can enjoy it for your whole life.
I don't think I'm gonna lose my hair. My grandfather still has his hair. He's in his I think he just started losing his hair. He's like in
bro,
his 70s. He's an old drug addict. He's got hepatitis. Like,
both of my two older brothers still have all their hair. And I like they have like a receding line, but they still have all this. And I'm like, all right, well, fuck my life. That's fine. At least I'm taller than them significantly, so they can't see the top of my head. But
what are you so stressed out about? It's all that banking, man. That working in a bank had to do you in.
100, hey, bro, that demolished me in so many levels. I should have stuck with
The
my dad.
stress of numbers, and then the stress of knowing how evil it is. Like,
yeah. There's no question about that. Like that's the thing is like I regret not sticking with a trade, or at least with my dad being like, hey, send me to a different trade school. I don't want to be a machinist because I'm bad at machinists, but send me to electrical or something like that. And that, you know what? We never even had that conversation. He was like, no, become an accountant. I'm like, accounting sucks. I'm going into finance. He's like, okay. And that was it, right? Cole, think he's just stressed about me. That is also factual.
well, I would be willing to say, like, Victoria, you're one of the good ones, so he doesn't have a lot to be stressed out about. But like, you are an Asian woman, and I know you drive sometimes. I just know you do, and that's gotta put him
a lot. And this is
in an awkward position.
Victoria says, "Oh, thanks, Cole." Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, I can't drive. I don't give a shit." But like, this is what I tell people.
And she's British, so she's in her mind, she's driving on the wrong side of the road.
100%. LOL. I am not that bad at driving. Yes, you are. That's fine. Gotta go. Thanks for streaming, guys. Good content. Hey, Triumphium, please make sure you subscribe to Sniffing Lou 22 and Dealing with Genetic Marvel. We are going to be back on Thursday with mental health. So, which is all about men's mental health. So please make sure you tune in on that day. It's going to be at 8:30 on Thursday. But yeah, no, I make this claim where I'm like, my wife is fantastic. She's a very good person. If anything, she's a saint. But the only her claim to fame is dealing with me. So I'm like, without me being a pain in the ass that I am, not very saint like. So it's like, kind of. It's a it's a numbers game. Thank you very much. We'll see you then, buddy. Have a great one. Yeah, this is the thing is like, it's that fine line between enjoying life, but also taking stock and thinking about the future, right? Like, I know as a single person, which I was for a few years in my youth, you don't have a care in the world, and you're like, whatever happens. But then as you get more responsibility and you want more out of life, you find yourself thinking, you're like, I got to do stuff. Victoria says, I never claimed to be a saint. That's a lie. It was on your resume.
I think life is all about that's the quote says it all. Like, you gotta prepare for the snags and the potholes and the lake effect weather. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and this is the thing is, you can never be prepared for everything.
right.
And like, you're driving a car, maybe you hit a pothole, maybe something flies off another car and hits your windshield, right? So you can't be prepared for everything in all that encompasses, but you can have a AAA.
Yeah.
So like, you can always have a backup to the backup to the backup. Like, look, you have a charger
Or a
inside your house.
fucking
Like,
donut in your car, or a spare tire, and know
yeah.
how to fucking change a tire. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, bro, I remember getting a flat and I called CAA and they're like, "Can't you change it yourself?" I'm like, honestly, I can. I just want somebody to block traffic. I'll do it. Just put your lights. He's like, well, no, I can't. I have to do it because I'm here. But I'm like, that's fine. I'm like, it was more so I couldn't, I didn't, there wasn't enough of a shoulder. So I'm like, I'm gonna be in traffic and I'm fat. I'm like, people will hit me and they'll be like, I hit a bear. I don't, you know, 6 points.
that would I'd never crossed my mind. I'm fucking like I don't know, dangerous like that. And I don't mean I'm dangerous. I'm just kind of dumb.
Yeah, but that's like, yeah, that's fair. Everyone is though. Everyone is to a certain degree. Right. And even, and you try and learn, as you go. And that's the thing is like, I find that regardless if you get punched in the face or not, you should still wear a mouth guard, right? It's being prepared for those situations where you're going, hey man, I'm going into battle. I may be the biggest motherfucker out here, but you know what though? Somebody's gonna throw a rock around my face. It's one of
You
those
know
things.
what's funny about that is I have a chipped tooth from boxing,
Yeah.
and I was wearing a mouth guard.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, that's the only way that it would go. That's fair.
Yup.
I feel, and that's one of those things where it's sometimes there's a benefit to failing because it makes you grow, and there is a downside to always feeling success, right? So it's and that's that whole thing is like if you never fail, you're not trying hard enough, right? Because failure is what builds you, builds your character, builds your strength, and builds your ability to withstand the storm, right?
Right. I almost borderline like when uh something kind of goes awry.
Yeah.
When I don't have anything in the near future going on, like right now, I had Christmas presents to buy, so it'd be cool if nothing else happened. You know what I mean? To get in the way of that. But
Yeah.
like, if say January something fucking wants to go awry, I think I like it. Not super awry, not like fuck up, like not
Yeah.
like something like mid level that's
Hmm.
never happened before, and I learn how to deal with that. I almost borderline like to learn how
Yeah.
to deal with something like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's kind of
Sure.
weird. And when I was younger, I used to hate every little thing that went wrong was the end of the world to me. Now that I'm in my 30s, I'm like, there's shit I need to learn, man. Like,
Yeah.
shit happens.
Yeah. And that's like I'm doing little projects here around the house. We started a garden, we did other things. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. But I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna try again next year and do more stuff. And just because like I wanted to do like a mesh, like a steel mesh over top of it, like a dome. Or
Oh,
not a dome, like an archway, and that did not work. So instead, we bought these sticks, and they have their own system, and I'm like, "All right, we're just gonna do that next time, and that way it'll just be all fine and dandy." But I'm like, but that's the thing is, you got to try, and it didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. It's fine. Do it again. No problem.
what the fuck did Victoria just say?
Oh, so yeah.
You're
So
saying some fucking
sometimes you gotta
Canadian shit.
let loose to have shenanigans. How else do
This
you park
one.
almost in a ditch or wade in a cranberry bog? So Victoria has a friend that she was her maid of honor and she's close friends with.
That is the
And
most Canadian thing I've ever heard anybody say, by the way.
yeah, it's fine. But her and that friend will constantly get into shenanigans that only out of sheer universal glory do they not end up crashing a car or getting a ticket or somebody having big problems. But knock on wood that their fortuitous behavior continues because I agree you should have shenanigans. At the same time, don't do dumb shit. That's do fun shit, not dumb shit. That's I think is reasonable. But
I have a tendency to just get myself into peculiar situations with no
yeah,
effort or part. I feel like of my own. Like I wasn't like, hey, let's go. I feel like people hear when I tell a story
yeah,
about anything in my life, and then I
yeah,
continue to tell more stories. I feel like you probably think this too, where do you think that I'm like I go looking for trouble?
A
I
little
don't. I
bit.
kind of just there's just I always have people around who are like, no, it's cool. Like they're cool and confident about shit. And then I realize, oh, I'm smarter than that person, and I didn't realize
Yeah.
I was smarter than that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
And that's
and it got me into these crazy
yeah.
situations.
So, and this is one of those things where you look around and everyone's like, no, it's cool. And you're like, I don't think that's cool. But you know what? You said it's cool. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm
I
overreacting.
used to
Right?
think that I was I used to always assume I'm the dumbest one in the room. That was a
Yeah.
big part of growing up for me, was realizing I'm at least, one of the leaders here. Like,
Well, you
in
start to
most
realize you're like,
situations.
oh, I am surrounded by idiots. That's
Right.
because you're like, I have the same problem where I'm saying going, I don't think I'm the smartest guy here, but
It's
I
starting to
don't
feel that way, right?
it's starting to feel like either no one is paying attention or um everyone's an idiot. And I'm like,
Right.
And then I'm like, well, and I'll tell you, there's been times where everyone has agreed with me behind the powers that be's face. And I said, then why didn't you say something? They're like, oh, I'm not gonna get fired. And I'm like, and then I got fired. I'm like, oh, there you go. Right. So it's one of those things where you're like, that sometimes sounds golden. Other times, it's worth it. But it you never know until you try.
Right.
So who
Right.
knows, right? But that's just one of those things. But well, that's how it's gonna go, everybody. Yeah, so we are back Thursday with mental health. And we're gonna be discussing something interesting.
We haven't really come up with a topic yet.
Well, you asked me and I gave you a few options. The idea was about physical health, hobbies, all sorts of things that are in that vicinity. But we are going to think of something cool to discuss just with regards to that idea of attacking mental health in a positive fashion and how that rolls out for everything, which is fair. And then on the weekend, we have Hammered and Cheese on Saturday. And Sunday we again have Generation Dan, which you are going to.
I'm going to be on that one too.
Yeah, yeah. Because Atlas is posting videos of him in Japan, which are hilarious because he's like a head taller. He's not even he's out of the three of us, he's the shortest, and none of us are short. But he is like
he's actually a little bit taller than me.
Is he really? Well,
yeah,
I'll tell you.
I'm the shortest. Is the funny part.
Yeah, but
Which
you're
is
not
funny because I do have little man syndrome a little bit. Like, no, none of us are short. I'm
none of us
tall,
are short.
but I think Atlas has like a hair taller than me. Because I think we stood next to each other and did it one time when he was here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But no, it's funny because like people are like, why are you so aggressive and loud all the time? And I'm like, I have little man syndrome. I don't think you guys realize. And they're like, but you're tall. And I'm like, wait till I get around a taller person. It gets worse.
That's true. That is 100% accurate. Well, the funny thing is, though, is like in all of his pictures and videos, he is like a head taller than everyone there, which I'm like, bro, I've been in those situations. It's an interesting experience because everyone just goes, huh? And you're like, I'm not that tall. And they're like, yeah, you are. You're huge. And you're like, all right, sure.
It's funny because he looks like the pilot episode of Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. You know what I'm talking about? Because the original airing of Vegeta, he had red hair.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know, because like the artist didn't know what hair color Saiyans were gonna have yet. So they drew him wrong and gave Vegeta red hair. So he's just, and they're like, oh, Vegeta, you know what I mean? Like and Atlas is definitely like a weeb, like anime.
Oh yeah.
Anime nerd.
Some of the videos he's posting are hilarious. Victoria says, I hope Atlas heads to Studio Ghibli. I think tomorrow he's hitting up Disney. I should like to take a photo with the two of you. I would look like an Oompa Loompa. I mean, not quite, but sure.
Dude, the first thing I want to do if I go ever go to Japan is I want a geisha. Is that what having an Asian wife is like? Is having a geisha? I mean, I know she's Chinese, but it's the same thing, right?
It's not. Geishas are weird. Trust me. It's a thing.
Cases are weird.
Yeah. Because it like, and that's the thing is, cultures are very, very different, but
There's a
also
quiet woman that waits in the corner for you to give her demands. That sounds awesome. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? It sounds like a wife.
no,
A
you
good wife.
racist dude. Yeah, there you go. It's no, they're
Asian jokes all night long, and that's the one that gets you.
geishas aren't prostitutes.
I
Also
never
true.
said they were prostitutes,
I mean, they're a little
but
bit prostitute.
just like a fucking woman that does everything I tell her to do. You know what I mean? For the most part, you don't got to be sexual. I'm not a real sexual human being, believe it or not.
That's the projected opinion that, oh, these women are very mild and they just obey. No, they're not. They will stab you. That's
Really,
100%.
I'm kind of
And
more attracted to them now. Now it is sexual.
no, well, that's fair. But they will poison you. They will. Then they will have a knife on them, and they're very stabby.
Well, is it like if I am aggressive with them, they'll stab me, or are they just is something I say going to set them off? Because I don't like those types of women because I tend to say things that set people off.
You tend to attract those kind of women. Let's be honest.
No,
Uh,
dude, it's like they're like, why are you like this? And I'm like, I was always like this. I was always you saw it as a challenge to change me, and I was like, not gonna change. You know what I mean? That was never gonna happen. It was never in the cards. And now you're upset that you have failed your challenge.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Then they're enraged by it, and you're like, yeah, you can't, no, because there was never an agreement for me to change.
I was molded this way. I have become this. You can't make it go back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the fucking like the tube.
If anything, you've made it worse. So that's the way I like to see it. But yeah. So anyways, thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, then Monday again for more Life of Giants. But make sure you subscribe, Sniffing Glue 22, Dealing with Genetic Marvel, and we will be back in a couple days. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.